Lieutenant Commander Frank Collins stared at the massive energy barrier that sparkled like a blue wall across his view screen. 5 years had passed since humanity suddenly pulled out of the Galactic Council, and still no one understood why. Frank sipped his coffee as he sat alone in the small observation post. His job was simple: watch the barrier and report any changes. Day after day, nothing changed. The humans had gone silent, retreating behind their shields and taking all their colony worlds with them. "Commander, incoming transmission from Council headquarters," said the computer voice. "Put it through," Frank replied. The stern face of Counselor Zivixar appeared on screen. The Akrelian's gray skin and 4 eyes made his expressions hard to read, but Frank knew worry when he saw it. "Commander Collins, have you noted any changes in the barrier?" Zivixar asked. "No, sir. Same as yesterday and the day before. Our sensors still can't penetrate it." Zivixar nodded slowly. "We've detected unusual movement beyond the shield. Our deep space probes suggest the humans are building something massive." Frank wasn't surprised. The evacuation had been too organized, too planned. The humans had been preparing for years before they left. "Sir, with respect, we should have listened to them," Frank said. Zivixar's eyes narrowed. "Your opinion is noted, Commander. Continue your observations." The screen went black. Frank stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the actual barrier with his own eyes. It shimmered like water in the distance, stretching far beyond what he could see. 12 light-years away, Captain Lisa Winters led her team through the grand halls of the Council's central chamber. This would be the final diplomatic meeting between humans and the Council. Her team walked confidently despite being surrounded by representatives from over 200 alien species. "Captain Winters, the Council demands an explanation for humanity's actions," said High Counselor Dirax, the ancient Valerian whose species had helped found the Council 10,000 years ago. Lisa smiled politely. "My government has explained our position many times over the past 20 years. The evidence we presented about the approaching threat was clear. You chose to ignore it. Your evidence was circumstantial at best," argued the Turellian ambassador. "You can't expect us to divert resources based on ancient legends and scattered energy readings." Lisa placed a small device on the center table. It projected a series of star charts showing strange distortions at the edge of the galaxy. "These aren't legends. The harbingers are real, and they're coming. We gave you every chance to prepare. Now we walk our own path." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Akrelian representative stood up. "And what of your obligations to the Council? The protection treaties, the shared technologies?" "All fulfilled according to the letter of our agreements," Lisa replied. "The treaties allowed for withdrawal with proper notice. We gave you 5 years' notice, which ended today." "And the humans who chose to stay behind?" asked Dirax. "Made their own choices. They're either Council citizens now or independent. Earth respects their decision." Lisa turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "When they come, and they will come, don't try to fight them alone. You'll fail. Our shields will remain open for refugees for exactly 6 months after first contact. After that, we make no promises." As her team left the chamber, Lisa remembered the Council meeting 20 years ago, when humans first brought evidence of the approaching threat. The dismissal, the mockery, the political games. Humanity had spent those 20 years preparing, building, planning. And now time had run out. Back at his observation post, Frank Collins received a strange notification. A small ship was approaching the barrier from the human side. It wasn't supposed to happen. Nothing crossed the barrier in either direction anymore. The ship stopped just at the edge of the shield. A transmission came through, short and simple. "This is the start. Watch the stars at Sector 42. When they begin to go dark, you'll know we were right." The ship turned and disappeared back behind the shield, leaving Frank to wonder what darkness was coming that made humanity hide behind walls of light. Council Science Director Howard Grant stared at the data readings with growing concern. 3 months had passed since the final human delegation left, and the strange radiation patterns at the edge of the galaxy were getting stronger. Howard had chosen to stay with the Council when humanity pulled out. Sometimes he wondered if he had made the right choice. "Director, the energy spikes are increasing again," said his assistant, a young Valerian named Hicks. "They matched the patterns in the human reports from 20 years ago." Howard nodded slowly. "The reports they begged us to take seriously." He tapped his screen and pulled up the archived files, cross-referenced these with the current readings. The computer worked quickly. The match was perfect, exactly as the humans had predicted. Across the Council space, military forces were detecting massive energy signatures. Admiral Charles Montgomery of the Galactic Fleet studied the reports with a grim expression. Even though he was human, his loyalty to the Council had never wavered. Now he wondered if that loyalty would cost everyone everything. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the monitoring stations in Sector 42, reported his first officer. Charles felt a chill. Sector 42, exactly where the humans said to watch. "Send a scout team. Maximum stealth. I want to know what's happening out there." In her private office, veteran diplomat Olivia Sanders typed out another message to the human barrier. It was her 12th attempt at communication in the past month. All previous messages had gone unanswered. "This is Council Diplomat Sanders requesting direct communication with Earth government. We have confirmed unusual energy patterns in Sector 42. Please respond with any information." She sent the message, knowing it would probably be ignored like all the others. The humans had made their position clear. They were done talking. Olivia had spent 30 years building bridges between species. Now the most important bridge was broken, and she didn't know how to fix it. The emergency signal startled her from her thoughts. A priority message from Outpost Delta, the furthest Council installation in Sector 42. "Under attack. Unknown vessels. Weapons unlike anything we've seen. Cannot hold. Cannot." The message cut off abruptly. Olivia quickly forwarded it to Admiral Montgomery and the Council leadership. The thing the humans had warned about was finally happening. At Outpost Delta, the last survivors huddled in the command center. Commander Ben Kelly tried again to contact Council headquarters, but the communication systems were dead. Through the viewports, he could see the strange ships, black, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "What are they waiting for?" whispered Lieutenant Diane Russell. "They've destroyed our defenses, our ships. Why not finish us?" Ben had no answer. The alien vessels had appeared without warning, cutting through the outpost's shields like they weren't there. The battle, if you could call such a one-sided slaughter a battle, had lasted less than 5 minutes. A flash of light caught his attention. Another ship had arrived, but this one was different, sleek, silver, with the unmistakable design of human engineering. It made no move to attack or defend, simply observing. "They knew," Ben said quietly. The humans knew this would happen. The human vessel moved closer to one of the black ships, scanning it. The attackers seemed to ignore it completely, as if it posed no threat or interest. Then, without warning, both the human ship and the black vessels disappeared. One moment they were there, the next, nothing. The outpost was left in eerie silence. 2 hours later, when Council rescue ships finally arrived, they found Outpost Delta in ruins. Of the 400 people stationed there, only 25 survived. And all of them told the same story, of unstoppable black ships and a single human vessel that watched and vanished. In his office, Admiral Montgomery received the reports from Delta with a heavy heart. He opened his private channel to send a message he never thought he would send. "To all Council forces, this is Admiral Montgomery. First contact with hostile force designated the Harbinger has occurred. All outposts in border sectors are to evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." He paused, then added one final line. The humans were right. Dr. Patricia Miller brushed dust from the ancient stone tablet she had just uncovered. Her excavation team had been digging on this uninhabited planet for weeks after Council sensors detected unusual energy readings. What they found shocked everyone. These markings matched the energy signature of the human barrier shields, she said to her assistant. Exactly the same pattern. The ruins stretched for miles underground, filled with technology that had stopped working ages ago. But the designs were clear enough. Whatever civilization built this place had been creating shield technology similar to what humans now used. "How old are these ruins?" asked her assistant. Patricia checked her dating equipment. "At least 50,000 years, maybe older." She took pictures of everything and sent them directly to Council headquarters. Within hours, an emergency research team was on its way. Meanwhile, near the edge of human space, Council spy Alan Rodriguez guided his small stealth ship through a dangerous asteroid field. He had been sent to gather information about what the humans were doing behind their barriers. It was risky work. If caught, the Council would deny knowing him. Through his ship's sensors, he observed massive construction projects spanning entire star systems. Humans were building structures bigger than anything the Council had ever attempted. Giant ring-shaped devices orbited stars, collecting energy and feeding it into the shield network. Alan zoomed his camera in on one construction site. Thousands of workers moved around a partially completed ring. One man stood out, giving orders and checking plans. Alan's facial recognition software identified him as William Carter, a human engineer who had been famous for his work on energy systems before the withdrawal. Alan recorded everything he saw and prepared to leave. As he turned his ship around, he noticed something strange. The design of the structures looked familiar. They matched the artifacts recently discovered by Dr. Miller's team. Back at Council headquarters, Councillor Zivexar reviewed all the new information with growing concern. The ancient ruins, the human construction projects, the attack on Outpost Delta, they were all connected somehow. He pulled up old files from the Council archives. 23 years ago, humans had submitted a report about ruins they discovered on a distant moon. The Council had dismissed it as unimportant. Now Zivexar realized that those ruins were identical to the ones Dr. Miller found. They knew, he whispered to himself. They found these ruins decades ago. A message alert pulled him from his thoughts. It was from human space, the first direct communication since their withdrawal. The sender identified himself as Kevin Hughes, a human ambassador. The message was brief. "We found what you ignored. Now we're building what you couldn't imagine." Attached to the message were coordinates for a star system just outside Council space. The message continued. "If you want to survive what's coming, send a small team to these coordinates in 3 days. One ship only. We will show you what you need to know." Zivexar immediately called an emergency council meeting. After hours of heated debate, they decided to send a ship. The dangers were clear, but they needed answers. As the council argued, human engineer William Carter supervised the final adjustments to the shield generator covering the Proxima Centauri system. The technology they were using came from the ancient race they now called the predecessors, the same civilization that fought the Harbingers 50,000 years ago. "Power levels stable," reported his assistant. "Shield integrity at 100%. William nodded with satisfaction. "Add it to the network." With a flip of a switch, the Proxima Centauri shield connected to the growing network of protected systems. On a large display map, another star lit up green, joining dozens of others already secured. William looked at the map and then beyond it to a dark section of space where the first Hardinger ships had been detected. "How long do we have?" asked his assistant. "Not long enough," William replied, "but more time than the council has." The council chamber erupted in shouting and angry gestures. Representatives from 200 species argued as news of 3 more destroyed outposts reached them. The Harbinger forces were moving faster than anyone expected. "We must unite our fleets," shouted the Turellian ambassador, pounding his fist on the table. "And send them where?" replied the Valerian leader. Our best ships were destroyed without even damaging the enemy. High Counselor Dirax raised his hands for silence. We must consider asking the humans for help. This statement caused even more uproar. Many council races still blamed humans for the current crisis, believing they had somehow caused or attracted the Harbinger attack. The humans abandoned us, yelled the Akrelian representative. They are cowards who ran when duty called. Others disagreed strongly. They warned us for decades, argued the Novian diplomat. We ignored them. Now they may be the only ones who can help. As the council argued, Commander Nicole Harrison prepared her ship for a dangerous mission. She had served in the council fleet for 15 years, but her loyalty to humanity came first. Without official permission, she was taking her ship and loyal crew directly into human space. This is mutiny, her first officer said quietly as they prepared to depart. Nicole nodded. Yes, but it might be the only way to save billions of lives. Her small cruiser slipped away from the council fleet and headed toward the nearest human shield barrier. They had no way of knowing if the humans would welcome them or destroy them. After 6 hours of travel, Nicole's ship approached the shimmering blue barrier. Before they could send any message, sensors detected multiple ships emerging from the shield. Human vessels approaching, reported her tactical officer. Heavy cruiser class. They're locking weapons. Nicole took a deep breath. Open communications, all channels. The view screen lit up, showing a stern-faced man in a crisp uniform. This is Admiral Gregory Phillips of the Human Defense Fleet. You have entered restricted space. State your purpose. Admiral, I'm Commander Nicole Harrison. We come seeking alliance against the Harbinger threat. The Council is falling. We need your help. The Admiral studied her for a long moment. The Council rejected our warnings for decades. Why should we help now? Because innocent people are dying, Nicole replied simply. People who had no say in the Council's decisions. After a tense silence, Admiral Phillips nodded. Follow our escort. Any deviation from the assigned course will result in immediate destruction. Nicole's ship was led through the barrier to a massive space station hidden behind it. The station was unlike anything in Council space, clearly built with technology far beyond current Council capabilities. Inside a secure meeting room, Nicole and her senior officers learned the truth. The humans had been preparing for war against the Voidborn, their name for the Harbingers, for generations. Our scientists found the first evidence of the Voidborn 100 years ago, explained Admiral Phillips. When the Council dismissed our concerns, we began preparing on our own. He showed them images of enormous fleets and weapon systems hidden throughout human space. Nicole was shocked by the scale of human military mobilization, far greater than the Council ever suspected. As they talked, an alarm sounded. A new ship had arrived. A Council science vessel. Samuel Brooks, the Council's technological director, had defected to the humans, bringing crucial Council defense codes with him. The Akrelian Dominion is planning to attack human space, Brooks explained urgently. They believe you created the Harbinger threat as an excuse to take control of the galaxy. Admiral Phillips sighed. They still don't understand what we're facing. Hours later, the attack came. A small Akrelian battle group attempted to breach the human shields. Their weapons, among the most powerful in Council space, couldn't even make the shields flicker. Human defense systems effortlessly disabled the attacking ships without destroying them. Nicole watched the brief battle with a mixture of relief and worry. The humans could clearly defend themselves against Council forces, but would that be enough against the Harbingers? As if reading her thoughts, Admiral Phillips said quietly, "What you've seen today is nothing compared to what's coming. The real question isn't whether we can fight the Voidborn. It's whether anything in this galaxy can." The emergency alarms woke Admiral Charles Montgomery from a brief rest. He rushed to the command center of the Council flagship. The screen showed scenes of destruction that made his blood run cold. Varen Prime has fallen, his officer reported. The entire Voidborn fleet emerged from jump points simultaneously. Our defenses lasted less than 30 minutes. Charles stared at the tactical display. Varan Prime was home to over 12 billion people. The Voidborn ships moved through the system, methodically destroying everything. "Any survivors?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "None detected, sir." Charles closed his eyes briefly. This was the first major Voidborn attack, the beginning of what human reports had warned about for decades. "All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare for emergency evacuation of nearby systems." Even as he gave the orders, Charles knew they would not be enough. Council weapons barely damaged Voidborn ships. Their technology was simply too advanced. At the edge of the battle zone, 3 unmarked vessels watched. Their design was clearly human, but they made no move to help or hinder either side. They simply observed, recording everything. Inside the lead observation ship, Captain Stephanie Lewis watched the Council forces being destroyed. Her orders were clear: observe only, do not engage. It was harder than she expected. "Captain, we're receiving distress calls from civilian transports," her communications officer said. Stephanie hesitated. Standing orders prohibited interference, but those were civilians down there, not Council military. "Plot an intercept course to the civilian ships. Stealth systems at maximum." Her ship moved quietly toward a group of transport vessels trying to escape the Voidborn. Using advanced shielding technology, Stephanie's crew created a corridor for the transports to escape through. "Send them coordinates to the refugee processing station at Shield Boundary 6, she ordered. "Tell them they have 6 hours to reach it before we close the gates." Back at Council headquarters, the situation grew desperate by the hour. Billions of refugees fled toward human space, their only hope for survival. The Council leadership gathered for what might be their final meeting. "We have no choice," High Counselor Dirac said solemnly. "We must formally request human assistance." The vote was unanimous for the first time in Council history. Within minutes, a transmission was sent to the human government. The response came faster than expected. Human President Julia Matthews appeared on the Council screens. Her expression was serious but not unkind. "Councilors, we have received your request for military aid against the Voidborn threat. After careful consideration, I must decline." Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. However, Matthews continued, "We will not abandon innocent civilians to their fate. All refugee ships that reach our shield boundaries within the next 6 months will be granted safe passage and shelter." She paused, her expression hardening slightly. "We will not fight your war, but we will save those who deserve saving." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. In a research facility deep in Council space, Dr. Eric Freeman worked frantically to understand the Voidborn. After studying ancient records and current attack patterns, he made a startling discovery. "The attacks aren't random," he told his team. "They're following the exact pattern described in the predecessor warnings, the same warnings humans found decades ago." He pulled up star charts showing ancient battle sites from 50,000 years earlier. The Voidborn were using the same invasion routes, targeting the same strategic points. The humans knew this would happen because it's happened before, Eric realized. That's why they built their shields where they did. At Shield Boundary 6, Commander Stephanie Lewis oversaw the growing refugee processing station. Thousands of ships arrived hourly, carrying people from dozens of species. Human medical teams worked alongside volunteers from refugee groups, trying to handle the massive influx. A Council diplomatic shuttle requested permission to dock. Inside was Ambassador Richard Taylor, carrying an official message. "The Council formally requests entry to human territory for its remaining leadership," he said. "In return, we offer all our remaining technology and resources." Stephanie forwarded the request to Earth. The response was immediate. "Permission granted for leadership only. Tell them to prepare for full disclosure protocols." Stephanie relayed the message, adding, "President Matthews has a personal message for the Council representatives." "What is it?" asked Taylor. "She says, the time for secrets is over. You're about to learn why we really left." 3 months after the fall of the Council capital, The Voidborn ships surrounded the human shield network. Their dark vessels pressed against the energy barriers, probing for weaknesses but finding none. Inside the shields, billions of refugees from hundreds of worlds huddled on hastily established colonies and space stations. The Galactic Council officially dissolved when the last of its member representatives signed a protection treaty with humanity. The once proud races that had ruled the galaxy now existed only because humans had prepared for what they all denied was coming. In a research station orbiting Earth, Dr. Laura Thompson worked with a team of scientists from both human and former Council worlds. They studied the data rescued by Admiral Cooper's team, looking for any advantage against the seemingly unstoppable enemy. "The weakness is there," Laura insisted, pointing to energy readings from the Voidborn command ship. "Their ships are connected to their home dimension. That link is what gives them their power." A former Council scientist nodded slowly. "And if we could sever that connection?" "Exactly," Laura said. "We can't destroy them with conventional weapons, but we might be able to cut them off from their power source." The team worked day and night, combining human understanding of predecessor technology with the tactical data from Cooper's last stand. Finally, they had a working prototype, a device that could disrupt the dimensional link between the Voidborn and their home reality. Laura presented their findings to President Matthews and Admiral Ryan Bennett, who would lead the combined fleet. "It will work," she explained, "but there's a catch. We need to get extremely close to their central command ship and keep the device activated for 3 minutes. 3 minutes next to a Voidborn command ship." Admiral Bennett shook his head. "Nothing survives that long in their firing range. Then we'll need to drop our shields to deploy the weapon," President Matthews said quietly. The room fell silent as everyone understood what that meant. Dropping the shields, even temporarily, would expose billions to the Voidborn. Admiral Bennett began planning the largest military operation in human history. Former Council races contributed what little they had left: ships, pilots, and weapons. But the main force would be human, built on predecessor technology that had been preparing for this moment for decades. At the fleet gathering point near Jupiter, ships from 100 worlds formed into battle groups. At the center was the human flagship carrying the dimensional disruptor. Admiral Bennett addressed the combined forces. "Today we fight not just for humanity or for the former Council. We fight for all life in this galaxy. The Voidborn have harvested countless civilizations before us. They believe we will fall like all the others." He paused, looking at the faces of humans and aliens who had once been adversaries but now stood as allies. "They're wrong. 50,000 years ago, the predecessors drove them back, but couldn't finish the job. Today, we will." The massive fleet moved toward the galaxy's edge, where the greatest concentration of Voidborn ships gathered. As they approached, human shield generators created a protective bubble around the fleet. "All ships in position," reported Bennett's first officer. "Begin the attack," the Admiral ordered. The human shields dropped just enough to allow weapons fire out while maintaining protection. The Voidborn responded immediately, their dark energy weapons striking the shields with tremendous force. "Shields holding at 60%, came the report. "We can maintain this for 7 minutes at most." Bennett nodded. "Move us into position for the disruptor." The human flagship pushed forward, taking the brunt of the Voidborn attack as it approached the massive command ship. When they were in range, Bennett gave the final order. "Drop shields. Deploy the disruptor." For 3 terrifying minutes, the human ships fought without their greatest defense. Dozens were destroyed, but they maintained position, protecting the flagship while the disruptor did its work. A strange vibration spread through space as the device activated fully. The Voidborn ships began to flicker, their connection to their home dimension weakening. "It's working," shouted Laura from the science station. "The link is breaking." One by one, the Voidborn ships lost power. Some simply drifted in space while others imploded as their interdimensional energy collapsed. When it was over, the remaining human fleet surrounded the powerless Voidborn vessels. After 50,000 years, the harvesters of civilizations had finally been defeated. 6 months later, representatives from all surviving species gathered on Earth to form a new alliance. Humans stood as reluctant leaders, trusted because they alone had prepared for the threat when all others ignored it. Admiral Susan Cooper watched her display screen as the last Council defense line broke apart. 3 weeks had passed since the Council leadership entered human space. In that time, the Voidborn had pushed deeper into Council territory than anyone thought possible. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the 7th Fleet," her communications officer reported. Susan nodded grimly. It was expected. The 7th Fleet was their strongest remaining force, and even they couldn't stand against the Voidborn technology. "All ships, this is Admiral Cooper. Execute Operation Last Stand." Her remaining vessels formed into attack formation. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about buying time for civilian evacuations and gathering critical data on Voidborn weaknesses. "Target the command ship," Susan ordered. "All weapons, maximum power." The Council fleet surged forward, launching everything they had at the massive Voidborn vessel at the center of the enemy formation. For a brief moment, Susan allowed herself to hope as their weapons struck the target. The Voidborn command ship flickered, its shields weakening under the concentrated fire. Then it responded. Dark energy beams lashed out, cutting through Council ships like they were made of paper. "Keep firing," Susan shouted. "We need to get sensor data from those hits." Her science officer worked frantically, recording every detail of the battle. The information they gathered might be useless to them, but it could help others survive. One by one, Council ships exploded around her. Susan's flagship shuddered as it took multiple hits. "Admiral, engines are gone. Life support failing," reported her first officer. Susan looked around at her brave crew. "Launch the escape vessel with the tactical data. Get it to human space." A small, fast ship detached from the flagship and accelerated away from the battle. It contained all the sensor readings and battle data they had collected, along with a handful of crew members. From a safe distance, 3 human observation ships recorded the battle. They had maintained their non-interference stance throughout the conflict, but one captain was growing increasingly troubled by the orders. Commander Jason Wright watched as Admiral Cooper's flagship broke apart under Voidborn fire. His sensors detected a single escape vessel fleeing the battle with important tactical data. His second-in-command looked at him questioningly. "Sir, standing orders are clear. We observe only." Jason stared at the small Council ship, already being pursued by Voidborn interceptors. It would never reach human space without help. "Sometimes, orders need to be interpreted based on the situation," Jason said quietly. "Tactical, lock weapons on those interceptors. Communications, prepare to receive survivors." His crew moved quickly, knowing they were violating direct orders, but agreeing with their commander's decision. The human vessel surged forward, advanced weapons firing precisely at the pursuing Voidborn ships. The surprise attack caught the Voidborn off guard. 2 interceptors exploded immediately, and the others broke pursuit to deal with this new threat. "Get that Council ship inside our shields," Jason ordered. "Maximum speed back to human space once they're secure." His ship took several hits as they protected the smaller vessel, but predecessor-based shields held where Council shields had failed. Within minutes, they had the Council escape craft safely aboard and were racing back toward human territory. Meanwhile, on the Council capital world, evacuation had begun. Billions of people scrambled to board any ship that could fly as Voidborn vessels appeared at the edge of the system. "We can't evacuate everyone," said the acting Council leader to his emergency staff. "There are too many people, not enough ships." A communication arrived from human space. President Matthews appeared on screen, her expression solemn. "We've activated our shield network," she said. "It creates a protected corridor for refugee transit. We can hold it open for 72 hours. Get as many people through as possible." The acting leader stared in shock. 72 hours isn't enough time to evacuate everyone. "It's all we can give you," Matthews replied. The power requirements are enormous. We tried to warn you for decades. Now we offer you one path to survival." She paused, then added, "When this is over, remember who abandoned you and who saved you." The transmission ended, leaving the council leaders to make impossible choices about who would live and who would be left behind. Ambassador Richard Taylor and 6 remaining council leaders stepped off their shuttle onto human soil for the first time in 5 years. They were greeted by a small delegation led by Maria Robinson, a human researcher whose stern expression revealed little. "Welcome to New Terra," she said without warmth. "Follow me." The group entered a transport that descended deep underground. When the doors opened, the council members gasped. They stood at the entrance to an enormous complex stretching farther than they could see. "This is just one of hundreds," Maria explained as they walked. "We've been building these for decades." They passed through areas filled with strange technology and historical displays. Maria stopped at a large circular room with a central holographic projector. "Before we go further, you need to understand who we're fighting," she said. "Computer, display predecessor archive, first contact sequence." The hologram activated, showing strange, elegant ships similar to human designs. Then it displayed dark, angular vessels that the council members immediately recognized as voidborn ships. "These records are over 50,000 years old," Maria explained. "The civilization we call the predecessors fought the voidborn and eventually drove them back, but at terrible cost." She guided them through chamber after chamber filled with recovered artifacts and technology. "We found the first predecessor site on Mars, in our home system, 96 years ago. The council dismissed it as archaeologically interesting but strategically unimportant when we reported it." High Counselor Dirac looked embarrassed. "We had no reason to believe it was significant." "You had every reason," Maria countered. "The predecessors left clear warnings about the voidborn return cycle. They knew the enemy would come back." In another section, human scientists worked with equipment far beyond council technology. Everything you see here was reverse-engineered from predecessor tech. Their shield designs, weapons, propulsion systems, all adapted for our use. The tour continued to a massive viewing area overlooking an underground hangar. Council members stared in shock at the enormous fleet hidden there. "This is just what's stationed behind Jupiter," Maria said. "We have similar facilities throughout human space." General Daniel Peterson met them at the hangar. "Our withdrawal wasn't about abandoning the council," he explained. "It was about preparing final defenses and saving what we could. We knew the council wouldn't act until it was too late." The group moved to a secure communications room, where technicians monitored strange signals. "We've broken their communication codes," Maria said. "The Voidborn aren't just invaders. They're harvesters of civilizations. They move from galaxy to galaxy, consuming all advanced life before moving on." She activated a recording. The sounds were inhuman, but the translation appeared on screen. "Tarjihi HFY evaluation. Multiple civilizations DTCTE. Harvest yield estimated at 87% efficiency. Primary resistance identified CC2R 3447. Clients and process." "That's a transmission from 3 days ago," Maria said quietly. "We're in Sector 3447. They know we're the main threat." In the final room of their tour, a human scientist named Paul Edwards showed them a simulation of voidborn conquest patterns. "Based on current attack speeds in our models," he explained, "the voidborn will complete their conquest of all council space in less than 1 year." The simulation showed system after system falling to the dark ships, with only human-shielded areas remaining untouched. "How can your shields stop them when our best defenses couldn't?" asked the Tyrellian counselor. Paul brought up technical schematics. "Predecessor shield technology operates on different principles than council shields. The Voidborn can't penetrate them because they helped design those shields 50,000 years ago, specifically to counter Voidborn weapons. The council members looked at each other, the full weight of humanity's preparation finally clear to them. "Why show us this now?" asked Councillor Zivixar. Maria's expression softened slightly. "Because time is running out. We have a plan, but it will require sacrifices from everyone, including humans." "What do you need from us?" Dirax asked. "First, the truth. We need your people to understand what's coming. No more politics, no more denial." Dirax nodded slowly. "And then," Maria said, "we show you how to fight back."